those of you who are still in that angry phase where every comment is that black men ain't shit, some of you to do is to sit quietly with that feeling and to work on figuring out how to use that energy to push you to the next level.
Hi guys, I listened to one of the most interesting thing. The Pink Pill released something that she did with Kendall St. Charles, who was very vocal in the divestment movement, the first wave of the divestment movement. And it was done in November 2018, so this is almost 3.5 years ago. And they were discussing the fact that 3.5 years ago, that they were worried that the women in the divestment movement 3.5 years ago were stuck in the anger stage of divestment. And that was very enlightening to me. 3.5 years ago. Now I'm a Johnny come lately. I've just heard about this space since maybe September or late August into September. Now what concerns me about that is that if 3.5 years ago someone was worried that a movement was stuck in its anger stage and it's still stuck in the anger stage, then that means it's revealing something bigger. And this is not just a divestment, this is also the sector of the manosphere which believes in something called the gynocracy. They're still stuck in this anger stage. You know, they have their own terms, B-dubs, or meaning BW, black women, or they say strags or all of this stuff. Like, you can hear it. They're still stuck in their anger stage. It had me thinking about the whole story of Moses leading the Israelites out of Egypt to the promised land. Because when I looked at it, I said to myself, the divestment movement or the BWE space is trying to move people to some promised land. Because let's be honest, if you can say, okay, black male worship is a problem, and you're saying, okay, you know, there's some dysfunction in the black male community, what's next after that? Like, what do you, after you get all that valuable information, how do you utilize it? How does that help you? And that means that it has to move to another stage, which is some implementation stage. That seems to be the big problem. Black manosphere, it's the whole talk of the gynocracy. This imaginary thing that women somehow control the black community. And you ask yourself the question, I'm very careful with saying with the knowledge of this, because I don't believe it actually exists. But with the belief of this, what's the next step? And that's where I think they're all stuck. So what it's now going on, and you know, Kendall St. Charles spoke about it, and it's so brilliant. She said what Black YouTube was back then, and this is 3.5 years ago, and I think it still is, has become this new trauma bonding place where people come daily to listen to the negatives and the ills of another group. So with the divestors and BWE, black men there is a big problem with black men, a serious problem with black men. Then with the gynocracy believing part of the manosphere, there's a serious problem with black women. And both sides try to say negative things about each other. And the problem that I find with both sides, and this is what I'm kind of getting to understand more, is that they're not solution oriented. And the reason why they can't be solution oriented is the black women cannot change black men, and the black men can't change black women. And so what ends up happening is they stay in this arrested development. And believe you me, I'm not the one that used that term. Kendall used that term. I mean, so she saw this 3.5 years ago, and she said, you know, but 3.5 years later, they're still there. So it reminds me so much of the Israelites walking through the desert, because as they said, they spent 40 years trying to get to somewhere which should have taken a few days to get to. And you know what this is happening here is, I think that even these folks here are in a worse position than the Israelites in the Bible, because Israelites knew they were going to somewhere, but these guys I don't think are going anywhere. I think it's just venting, and they're in that venting stage and they don't mind it. And what's happening is these long lives, 2-3 hours, are venting churches, and the cash apps are supposed to be the contributions and the offering, right? And so each day, the whatever content creator comes up with a new reason why you should be angry, and you should continue to listen to them about the anger, but there's no change coming. And what change is there? And one of the things I always go back to is Jordan Peterson. Why try to change someone else? The person you should be changing is yourself. And one of the key things is, we need to recognize is that both the manosphere and the BWE, Black Women Empowerment Space, they're just children of B1, the Black First. The Black First had to deal with racism and segregation and all of that stuff, and they were the ones that were leading the Black community. And honestly, they led the Black community through segregation. They led it through integration, and right now, I think we're in a later stage of integration. They're now no longer as popular, and both the manosphere and the BWE people, they really reject the B1 people, because the truth is they're no longer as useful as they are, and everyone needs a great Satan, a great enemy. And the BWE space has said that that's the black man, and then the manosphere has said to some extent that women who are not feminine, fit, or friendly are the ones that are the enemy of the manosphere. And when you look at that, what that has created is this funk, this arrested development. And this arrested development does not even provide a lot of money for people. It's not like people are making millions off of this. This is just regular people getting little bits of super chat on all this to keep this little fire going. I think it's embarrassing, actually. And somehow I believe that at its current state, 10 years from now, they'll still be doing the same thing. And these people who are angry and feel that they're righteously angry will need this, because this has become their panacea. This is their opiate. This is the thing that they take each day to make them feel better about themselves. A lot of this are men who have been probably going through child support, have gone through divorces, have gone through several different things that they feel upset about. And then on the women's side, many of them have faced abandonment or basically just rejection. No one really wants to be with them. And I think that these people need these negative programs each day to help them to get through that day. So I don't know, I think as I listen to them more and more, I see that they don't really see a solution to the problem that they have, but they do see that a temporary relief is in someone saying negative things about the person or the group that they don't like. I hope that many people don't get caught up in this, because this leads to nowhere. This is a bridge to nowhere. And I think that once people get to look at themselves and think about self-improvement, you can be the best version of yourself. And I think that that's where everyone should aim to be. And that's where I think you reach true self-actualization within reason. And when we start to think about changing the other side or the other set, that's an almost impossible goal. What we should focus on is improving ourselves. Thank you, guys.